Alien shrieks echoed through the Galactic Council chamber as the human Ralph Davis disintegrated Councillor Zigmar's skull with a 50-cal explosive round for even suggesting they abandon the Felixians to Wezen's pet trade. The smoking barrel of Ralph's oversized pistol was the only sound that could be heard in the stunned silence that followed. He couldn't blame the pathetic alien trash that made up the council for being cowards, but if these bureaucrats wouldn't grow a pair and do what needed to be done, then by God he would show Wezen why humans had a reputation for being the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Ralph Davis, battle-hardened 35-year-old human veteran, had gotten the call just hours ago, while spending a rare day of shore leave with his beloved Felixian companion Whiskers. The high-priority mission briefing from the Council revealed that a rogue Vidian warlord named Wezen had been terrorizing the sector, and had just captured a large number of the feline-like Felixians from planet Zephyria to sell into the galactic pet trade. Ralph had heard of this asshole Wezen, a hulking 7-foot brute with a sadistic streak. Ralph could still feel the rage boiling his blood at the image of terrified Felixians in cages like animals. The Council could call them pets all they wanted, but to Ralph, the Felixians were family. He had raised Whiskers from a kitten after first arriving on Zephyria, and that empathic little furball had been by his side through thick and thin ever since. These useless council members from the avian Ethans, insectoid Zygons and reptilian Crodons races didn't understand the human-Felixian bond, but they sure as shit understood Ralph's skills as the Galactic Marine's top operator. They had chosen him for the mission, knowing his affection for the Felixians and his steel resolve to never back down from a challenge made him the only man in the galaxy up to the task. Failure was not an option. If Ralph didn't intercept Wezen's transport ships and rescue those Felixians, they would be scattered across the galaxy, subjected to a hellish life in captivity that was an insult to the proud, intelligent species they were. And worse, the Felixians shared a deep psychic connection. They would literally die from the anguish of being separated. But that wasn't going to happen, not on Ralph's watch. He didn't give a damn about Wezen's personal vendetta against humans or his army of 5,000 Vidian goons. Ralph had a job to do, and God help any alien bastard that stood in his way. Ralph stormed out of the council chamber, Whiskers bounding along at his heels. He didn't have time to waste on these spineless bureaucrats. The Felixians needed him. Ralph headed straight for the spaceport, where his ship, the Valkyrie, was docked. The sleek black vessel bristled with advanced human weaponry, plasma cannons, torpedo launchers, and a cloaking device for stealth ops. Exactly what he needed for this mission. "Come on, Whiskers, we've got a job to do," Ralph said as he strapped into the pilot's seat and fired up the engines. The Felixian gave a determined chirp and hopped into the co-pilot chair. Within moments, the Valkyrie blasted off from the station, streaking towards the wormhole that would take them to Zephyria. As they cruised through hyperspace, an encrypted message pinged on the quantum comm unit. It was Ralph's contact on the Council, an Ethan named Zephyr. Ralph had saved Zephyr's feathered ass a few years back during a Klingon raid on an Ethan colony. Zephyr's large eyes stared out from the screen, his beak clicking rapidly as he spoke. "Davis, I've got intel on Wezen's operation on Zephyria. That scaly bastard has a fortified compound on the main continent. Energy shields, anti-aircraft guns, the works, and his best Vidian commandos are guarding the place." Ralph cracked his knuckles. "I've taken down tougher nuts than him. But tell me, Zephyr, is it true he's got kittens in those cages too?" Zephyr nodded grimly. "Wezen isn't just selling them as pets. Word is he's going to raise them to be attack animals, turn them against their own kind." Ralph slammed his fist on the console, making Whiskers jump. Blinding rage pulsed through him. Tearing families apart was bad enough, but to corrupt innocent kittens, to twist them into something they weren't meant to be, there weren't words for that kind of evil, and Ralph was going to burn it out of the galaxy. "That sick son of a bitch is going to regret the day he crawled out of whatever cesspit spawned him," Ralph growled. "Thanks for the intel, Zephyr. Davis out." Ralph pushed the throttle to maximum burn. "Hold on, little ones, I'm coming," he thought fiercely. Suddenly a plasma blast rocked the ship, alarms blaring. Incoming hostiles, Whiskers yowled. A swarm of Vidian fighters dropped out of cloak, cannons blazing. Ralph jinked and juked, dodging their fire, the nimble Valkyrie dancing through the void. This was what he lived for, the deadly dance of combat, pitting his skills against the enemy. Ralph whooped as he executed a barrel roll, pulling behind a fighter and reducing it to space dust with a burst of his pulse cannons. But there were too many. Plasma bolts hammered the Valkyrie's shields. The Vidians had clearly upgraded their weaponry since Ralph's last run-in with them. Warning lights flashed red across the console. Armor integrity critical, life support failing. Ralph gritted his teeth. He snapped off a few more shots, taking out 2 more fighters, but a barrage of missiles sent the Valkyrie tumbling. Whiskers dug his claws into the seat, yowling in terror as they plummeted into Zephyria's atmosphere, trailing smoke and flames. Ralph fought with the controls, trying to pull out of the death spiral. At the last second he managed to level out, but there was no fighting gravity. The Valkyrie slammed into the planet's surface, plowing through the dense purple foliage of a Zephyrian jungle. Ralph's head smashed into the console as they hit, the world going black. He came to with a soft paw patting his face. Whiskers cocked his furry head, yellow eyes wide with concern. The acrid scent of fried circuits filled the air, the cockpit a ruin of tangled wires and sparking panels. Ralph hauled himself up, body protesting with a symphony of pains. But pain was an old friend. He pulled a medkit from the bulkhead and quickly patched himself up. Just a few lacerations and a wrenched shoulder, nothing that would slow him down. He checked his sidearm and bandolier, made sure his trusty Bowie knife was secure in its sheath. "Looks like we're walking from here, Whiskers," Ralph rasped, hitting the hatch release. "Stay close and keep those ears sharp. This jungle hides more than just tree vipers and slime slugs." The Phylixian gave a sharp nod, leaping down from the ruined ship and taking point. Ralph followed, the towering cycads and snake-like underbrush quickly swallowing up the crash site. In the distance, a shimmering blue dome rose above the jungle canopy, Wazen's compound. Miles of hostile terrain lay between them and the captive Phylixians, but no force in the universe could stop Ralph now. He was a human on a mission, and God help anyone who stood in his way. Ralph hacked through the thick undergrowth, his trusty Bowie knife clearing the way. Whiskers padded silently alongside him, ears pricked and nose twitching as he scanned for danger. The towering trees blocked out the sun, casting the jungle in an eerie twilight. "We've got company," Whiskers growled, his fur standing on end. Ralph's hand went to his sidearm, eyes narrowing as he scanned the dense foliage. A twig snapped, and a group of Phylixians emerged from the shadows, led by a scarred male with piercing amber eyes. "Hold it right there, human," the leader snarled. "State your business." Whiskers stepped forward, tail held high. "Zephyr, it's me, Whiskers. This is Ralph, my friend and ally. We're here to rescue our people from Weazen's clutches." Zephyr's eyes widened in recognition, but he kept his claws unsheathed. "Whiskers, and I thought you were lost to us, and you, human. Why should we trust you?" Ralph holstered his weapon and met Zephyr's gaze steadily. "Because I'm the one the Council sent to take down that scaly bastard, and because Whiskers is more than just my friend, he's family. I'll do whatever it takes to save your people." Zephyr studied Ralph for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I can see the bond between you. Very well, we will aid you. But know this. If you betray us, I will personally rip out your throat." Ralph grinned. "Noted. Now, do you know a way into Wazen's compound? Because I'm ready to introduce that overgrown lizard to my fists." Zephyr's tail twitched. "There's a hidden tunnel, an old escape route from the days when our ancestors fought against the Vidian occupation. It leads directly into the heart of the base." "Perfect. Lead the way." As they moved through the jungle, Ralph's thoughts turned to the captive Phylixians. "Hold on just a little longer," he thought fiercely. "We're coming for you." Deep within Wazen's base, a scream echoed through the halls. In a dark interrogation room, the massive Vidian loomed over a battered Phylixian female, his claws dripping with her blood. "I'll ask you one more time, Luna," Wazen hissed. "Where are the rest of your kind hiding?" Luna lifted her head, her eyes blazing with defiance. I'll never betray my people, you monster. Do your worst. Weazen backhanded her across the face, sending her crashing to the floor. Oh, I intend to, Crag. The door slid open, and Weazen's second-in-command strode in, his expression cold and cruel. Yes, my lord? Prepare the captives for transport. It seems we'll have to find the remaining Felixians the hard way. At once. Crag hauled Luna to her feet, dragging her from the room as Weazen's laughter echoed behind them. Ralph and his Felixian allies crept through the dense underbrush, the entrance to the hidden tunnel looming ahead. Suddenly, plasma bolts sizzled through the air, sending them diving for cover. A patrol of Vidian guards had spotted them, their weapons trained on the group. Take them down, Ralph roared, opening fire with his sidearm. Whiskers leapt into the fray, a blur of claws and teeth as he tore into the nearest guard. The Felixians sprang into action, their natural agility and stealth making them deadly opponents. They wove through the combat, striking from the shadows and disappearing like ghosts. Ralph fought like a man possessed, his every move precise and lethal. He took down guard after guard, their bodies hitting the ground with sickening thuds. But the Vidians kept coming, their weapons finding their mark. Ralph saw Zephyr go down, a plasma bolt burning through his chest. He raced to the fallen Felixian side, cradling him in his arms. Zephyr, stay with me, Ralph pleaded. We need you. Zephyr coughed, blood flecking his lips. No, Ralph, it is you they need now. He pressed a small crystal into Ralph's hand, his grip surprisingly strong. This is the key to unlocking our true power. Use it wisely. With a final shuddering breath, Zephyr went still. Ralph closed his eyes, grief and rage warring within him. He slipped the crystal into his pocket and stood, his face a mask of determination. Whiskers, Zephyr's sacrifice won't be in vain. We're going to save our people and make that bastard pay. With grim resolve, Ralph led the remaining Felixians into the tunnel, the darkness swallowing them up. Weazen's cruelty ended today, or Ralph would die trying. Ralph and the Felixians crept through the dank tunnel, the only light coming from glowing patches of bioluminescent fungi clinging to the rough-hewn walls. The air grew heavy with tension as the faint sounds of Vidian patrols echoed from the tunnel's far end. Ralph motioned for the group to halt, his eyes narrowing as he assessed their options. We need a diversion, Ralph whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant footsteps. I'll set charges at the tunnel entrance. When they blow, you all slip into the compound and free our people. Arya nodded, her feline eyes glinting with determination. We won't let you down, but be careful. Weazen's guards are ruthless. Ralph flashed her a cocky grin. They haven't met me yet. With silent efficiency, Ralph rigged a series of plasma charges along the tunnel walls. He and Whiskers took position on either side of the entrance, weapons at the ready. Ralph held up 3 fingers, counting down. 3, 2, 1. The charges detonated with a deafening boom, the shockwave sending rock and debris flying. Alarms blared as Vidian guards raced towards the smoking tunnel, plasma rifles raised. Ralph and Whiskers burst from the swirling dust, weapons blazing. Ralph slammed a guard into the wall, his Bowie knife finding the gap in the alien's armor. Whiskers was a blur of claws and teeth, his fury a terrifying sight to behold. Together, they pushed forward, using the narrow tunnel to funnel the guards into a killing field. Inside the compound, Arya and the Felixians moved swiftly through the shadows, their natural stealth rendering them nearly invisible. They reached the holding cells unseen, quickly subduing the guards with precise strikes. Keys in hand, they unlocked the cages, ushering their battered brethren to safety. But their luck couldn't hold. A klaxon sounded as Crag burst into the cell block, a snarl twisting his reptilian features. Fools, you dare defy Lord Weazen? Kill them all, he roared, his warriors pouring in behind him. The Felixians scattered, desperately trying to evade the onslaught of plasma bolts. Ralph and Whiskers charged into the fray, drawing fire away from the fleeing prisoners. Ralph tackled Crag, slamming a fist into the Vidian's jaw with a satisfying crack. Where's Weazen? Ralph growled, pressing his blade to Krag's throat. Krag spat blood, his eyes burning with hate. "You're too late, human. The Phylixian bitch you came for is already dead." Ralph's blood ran cold. Luna. He shoved Krag away, sprinting towards Wesen's chambers with Whiskers hot on his heels. He kicked in the door, plasma pistol leveled, only to find Wesen waiting, Luna's limp form at his feet. "Welcome, Ralph Davis," Wesen hissed, his clawed hand wrapped around Luna's throat. "I've been expecting you." Ralph's finger tightened on the trigger. "Let her go, Wesen, it's over." Wesen laughed, the sound like grating metal. "Over? You have no idea what's coming, but you won't live to see it." He threw Luna aside, drawing a wicked-looking plasma sword. "I'll mount your head on my wall, just like I did your father's." Ralph snarled, holstering his gun and unsheathing his knife. He wouldn't give Wesen the satisfaction of an easy kill. "Bring it, you scaly bastard." They clashed in a storm of steel and plasma, Ralph's speed and ferocity against Wesen's brute strength. Ralph could feel the crystal in his pocket pulsing, growing hotter with each blow. Wesen slammed Ralph back against the wall, the sword descending towards his throat. Suddenly Whiskers was there, leaping onto Wesen's back with a furious yowl. His claws raked across the Vidian's eyes, drawing a scream of pain. Ralph surged forward, burying his knife to the hilt in Wesen's chest. The Vidian warlord fell, blood pooling around his still form. Ralph rushed to Luna's side, cradling her battered body. Her eyes fluttered open, glassy with pain but alive. Around them the Phylixians emerged, Krag and his warriors kneeling in submission. The sounds of battle faded, replaced by ragged cheers of victory. But even as they savoured their triumph, Ralph's comm crackled to life with an urgent message from Zephyr. "Ralph, you must return to the council at once." The Ethan's voice was strained. "We've uncovered a dire plot. Wesen was merely a pawn. An ancient evil stirs in the shadows of the galaxy, and I fear we are all in terrible danger." Ralph shared a grim look with Whiskers. It seemed their fight was far from over. Steeling himself, he helped Luna to her feet. "Looks like we've got work to do, buddy," he said to the Phylixian. "You ready for another round?" Whiskers gave a rumbling purr, his eyes glinting with anticipation. Whatever threats loomed on the horizon, they would face them together, for in all the galaxy there was no force mightier than a human and his loyal companion, united in purpose and bound by brotherhood. Ralph's heart raced as he stared down at the pulsing crystal in his hand, the weight of Zephyr's final words echoing in his mind. The galaxy celebrated their victory over Wesen, but an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council shattered any illusions of peace. "Ralph, we have grave news." Councillor Zephyr's hologram flickered, his feathers ruffled with agitation. "Wesen was merely a pawn of the Dominion, a ruthless empire led by a being known as the Overlord. They used Wesen to test our strength, to probe for weaknesses." Ralph's jaw clenched, anger simmering beneath his skin. "So what's their endgame?" "Galactic conquest," Zephyr said grimly. "The Dominion has been creating an army of genetically engineered super soldiers, called the Risen. They'll sweep across the stars, enslaving or exterminating all in their path." Ralph's grip tightened on the crystal, its energy thrumming against his palm. "Not if we stop them first." Luna limped forward, her wounds bandaged but her spirit unbroken. "The crystal, it's the key to an ancient Phylixian weapon, our last hope against the Risen." Ralph met her gaze, determination etched into every line of his face. "Where is it?" "Hidden in a temple on our homeworld," Arya chimed in, "a place of power guarded by our ancestors' spirits." Ralph nodded, a plan already forming. "Then that's where we're going. Whiskers, Arya, Luna, you're with me. We'll find this weapon and blast the Risen back to whatever hell spawned them." They boarded the nearest ship, Ralph pushing the engines to their limit as they raced toward the heart of Phylixian space. But the Dominion had anticipated their move. Swarms of enemy fighters dogged their path, forcing Ralph to execute daring maneuvers just to stay alive. Whiskers manned the guns, his reflexes lightning quick as he picked off pursuers. Luna and Arya worked frantically to keep the ship's systems online, sparks flying from overloaded circuits. Through skill and sheer tenacity, they reached the Phylixian homeworld, a lush green jewel amidst the stars. But the Dominion had arrived first, their ships blackening the sky like a swarm of locusts. Ralph gritted his teeth, plotting a course through the chaos. "Hold on tight!" They plummeted through the atmosphere, enemy fire raking their shields. Ralph wove between towering stone spires, ancient structures that had endured for millennia. With a bone-jarring impact, they crashed into the temple grounds, scattering rubble and dust. Ralph kicked open the hatch, his plasma rifle already spitting fire, as risen soldiers poured from landing craft. Whiskers was at his side in an instant, a blur of claws and fury. Luna and Arya fought with the strength of 1,000 generations, their ancestors' spirits guiding their blows. Step by blood-soaked step, they carved a path into the temple's heart, the crystal blazing brighter with each passing moment. As they reached the inner sanctum, a figure emerged from the shadows, the Overlord, a twisted abomination of flesh and metal. "Foolish primates," he sneered, his voice a discordant screech. "You only delay the inevitable. The galaxy will be mine." Ralph raised his rifle, Whiskers crouched at his side. "Not today, you son of a bitch." They charged as one, plasma bolts and razor claws meeting psionic blasts in a cataclysmic clash. The temple shook, ancient stones cracking under the onslaught. Ralph ducked and weaved, his shots chipping away at the Overlord's armor even as the alien's powers battered at his mind. With a fierce cry, Whiskers leapt for the Overlord's throat, buying Ralph a precious moment to reach the temple's core. He slammed the crystal into the waiting pedestal, channeling all his rage, all his love for his companions into a single defiant act. The crystal flared like a newborn sun, a wave of blinding energy erupting outwards. The risen soldiers crumbled to ash, their twisted flesh unraveling. The Overlord screamed as the light seared him, his powers fading like mist before an inferno. But the radiance took its toll. Whiskers collapsed, his fur smoking, his breath shallow. Ralph cradled his friend, tears carving tracks through the grime on his face. "Stay with me, buddy," he pleaded. "Don't you dare leave me." Whiskers' eyes cracked open, a faint purr rumbling in his chest. "It's okay, Ralph, we did it, we saved them." His eyes slid shut, his body going limp in Ralph's arms. A howl of anguish tore from Ralph's throat, echoing through the shattered temple. The Overlord, gravely wounded but still alive, fled into the shadows, a promise of retribution hissing from his lips. But Ralph barely heard him. All he could feel was the weight of his friend, the gaping void that Whiskers' loss had carved into his soul. Around him, the Phylixians gathered, their heads bowed in grief and gratitude. "Whiskers' sacrifice will never be forgotten," Luna murmured, her hand resting on Ralph's shoulder. "He died a hero." Ralph nodded, his eyes hard as steel. "And I'll make sure it wasn't in vain. The Dominion, the Overlord, they'll pay for what they've done. I swear it." He rose to his feet, Whiskers' limp form cradled in his arms. The battle was won, but the war had only just begun, and Ralph would fight to his last breath to protect the innocent, to honor the memory of the friend who had given everything for the cause. The Phylixians stood with him, united in their resolve. They would face the coming storm together, human and feline, bound by ties stronger than blood. For in the face of tyranny, in the defense of freedom, they were more than allies. They were family. And family never abandons their own. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.